This is Tejashree, and I welcome you on behalf of Just for Hearts, your trusted wellness partner. And today we are all here to understand about the gut health and the weight loss. And I know you're a bit confused, like in weight loss, how come gut health has a role? To make you all understand that how a gut health can help you lose weight, we have our expert, very own expert, Janvi Chitalia, who is an integrative gut microbiome expert. Welcome, Janvi, on this
Thank you.
platform of Just for Hearts.
Thank
And
you very much.
I would like to introduce Janvi to you all. Janvi is an integrative gut microbiome expert and also a functional nutritionist. And she is a strong believer in reversing medical condition by healing the gut and using food as medicine. So once again, I welcome Janvi on this platform and over to you so that you can make a difference with your knowledge in the weight loss journey of the viewers.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tejashree. And like I said, thank you Just for Hearts for having me here today. And I'm really glad that I've been able to use this as an amazing platform to be able to improve and increase the awareness and knowledge about this very so important topic. And also especially more so in the times of our current situation in terms of COVID-19. I think this stands really important to be able to understand what's happening right now and how we can actually help ourselves in this time. So thank you so much for making time off your busy schedule at home and being a part of this today. So thank you each one of you who's made time to be here today. Right, so I'm going to get started right away, and I'd love to keep this interactive. I'd love to keep this more fun, and we'll take a lot of your questions at the end of this, and I'll be happy to answer each one of your questions. So stay put and make your notes, and it'll be nice to be able to kind of be a part of this together. So, right, so moving forward, like I said, I'm an integrative gut microbiome expert and a functional nutritionist, and what I really do is I work on getting to the cause of the issue behind any kind of a medical condition, be it from obesity or you're looking at, like I said, gut dysbiosis and many more. And today you will learn a little more about how the correlation of your weight loss and gut health is. So before that, I'm going to share some very interesting facts with you, and very interesting. In fact, they blew my mind when I myself kind of studied about the gut, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. So I'd love to share them with you so that you know just how amazing this organ is and how underrated our gut is. So just for the people who are a little confused about the gut, as we can see in the picture, your gut is your intestines, and that's your small and your large intestine, and really they play a magnificent role in so many functions in our body. So the most amazing thing about us as human beings, which we think we are, we're actually super microorganisms. So in fact, very interestingly, only 10% of our cells belong to human cells. All the other 90% cells that we have belong to actually bacteria, fungi, viruses, and pathogens in our body. So we're more, like I said, we're not more of a superhuman, we're more of a super microorganism. And that's just amazing to know, right? It kind of blew my mind completely, and I'm sure it's going to blow your mind to know this. Second most amazing fact is that I'm going to talk a little bit about the gut and what is microbiome. Microbiome is primarily this entire ecosystem that we have in place, which is like a universe, a small universe of the good and bad bacteria that live in our gut. So obviously we have all these bacteria on our skin, it's everywhere, but primarily we're talking about the gut microbiome right now. So there is this balance, like I said, of good and bad bacteria, which govern a lot of functions in our body. And it's amazing to know that each one of us has a unique microbiome. So like it's as unique as our fingerprint. So like for me or Tejashree or for you or for your parents or for your husband or for your wife or whatever it is, everybody that you know has a different microbiome in their system. So we're so unique in so many ways, so just to celebrate that fact about ourselves. And it's amazing to know that, right? So that's amazing. Another very important fact today is why are we talking about weight loss, gut health, and why are we talking about all these things today? Also, why is this so important in the current times with COVID-19 and this, all of us being in this lockdown at home? Is the fact that 70 to 80% of the cells which work around like your immunity cells or immune cells actually lie in our gut. So, when we're told so much is going around about immunity and why it's important and why should we really focus on improving our immunity, I think you'll find some of your answers here today, and you'll also find ways to do it and improve your gut health, which will in turn help you improve your immunity. So that's a very, very interesting fact, and I'd love to share that. And I'm sure that that will also build your interest in how you should work around your immunity at this so very important time in our lives. Another very important thing that I'd love to share with you is that inflammation basically, as we know, is the cause of any disease in our body, from a heart disease to, for example, diabetes, hypertension. All of these start with inflammation. Now, in a simple way, I'll explain to you what is inflammation. Inflammation primarily is a very, very interesting fact about the fact that if, for example, you have a child and a child is playing outside and a child falls, and it's probably he or she hurts his knee, or she hurts her knee, and you see that there is this whole wound there which is bleeding. But apart from that, around that area, in just some time, you will see that there is a redness and a swelling that kind of raises that wound up. And that really is your body's response as inflammation to protect the cells of the body. So primarily, inflammation is a way that your body is trying to respond to any kind of, it's like a protective mechanism of your body. But excessive inflammation in the body can be extremely problematic and then becomes a cause of the disease. So in a very simple way, it is primarily the way that your body actually picks up, it's a protective mechanism, but anything excess can become really bad for us. So inflammation is really the core that we want to work on, and especially when we do have an imbalance of a good and bad bacteria, that's when, obviously it leads to more inflammation. And this inflammation leads to a lot of, medical conditions, anything ranging from obesity to diabetes, to thyroid, to hypertension, to heart disease, to hormonal imbalance. Everything is governed by that. So that's really the reason why today we're talking about weight and gut in a big way and all other conditions. And last but not the least, before we move into the more exciting part, to understand how do you know you have a gut issue, the next thing that I would like to tell you is your gut takes care of everything in your body. So I'm sure you'll be really excited to know that everything from metabolism to your immunity, to your digestion, and even to your mood can be impacted by the balance of your gut microbiome. So I think all years after hearing metabolism and weight, and we all know how much we've worked around helping ourselves have a better metabolism all our lives to get fitter. So this is really a moment of getting the right answer, right? So great. Thank you so much for hanging in there with all the amazing information. Now let's quickly move into understanding a little more about how do you know that you have a gut issue. Correct? You may be like, Janvi, you've just given me all this information and these are amazing, interesting facts, but how do I make it relate to me, right? So here's the next part, and we'll move into, after I really mention about these kind of symptoms to know whether you have a gut issue, we will move into an amazing poll where we can have you also interacting. So keep your eyes and ears and everything open right now to get this in place. All right. So these are just some of the symptoms that I mentioned. So I'm going to take you through this entire understanding. So the top ways to know that your gut is probably imbalanced, so there is a microbiome imbalance. Number one, and these are not in the order of how it goes. These are just a collective cluster of kind of symptoms and signs that you can see. So number one that you want to see is a possibility, like I said, of a headache or a migraine. So how many of us actually wake up every morning thinking, oh my God, I have such a heavy head. I have a headache. I really don't know. I need that 2-3 cups of tea and coffee to wake up and feel better. And probably I have this, every time you eat something or after lunch or dinner, there's the trigger of a really, really bad headache or a migraine. And you know that there is a possible sign that there is a gut imbalance. So that could be one way that you probably know that there is a gut imbalance. Number two, there can be a possibility of having constipation. Now, constipation for some of us looks like, oh, you know what, I go once a day at least, but it's not satisfactory. And it's okay for it to not be satisfactory. Or it's okay if I go once in 2 days. So maybe you want to try and see that that is not okay. And you may want to try and see that constipation is really, even if you can't go properly once a day, you want to try and work around that. And that is a sign that your gut is imbalanced. Alternatively, there is a possibility that you may go 3 to 4 times in a day and you have a little motion every time, which is not well formed. So that again is another sign of a gut imbalance. The next one, our most important and a favorite one, is weight gain. Like I said, that you may feel like I'm doing an amazing diet, I'm doing a great deal of exercise, but I'm still not able to see a difference. So that may be related again to a very important fact that, you know, you're doing everything right, but still you're not seeing a difference in your weight. That could relate to an allergy or an intolerance that you don't know of. Until you don't continue, till you continue eating those foods, they may continue to give you a problem. So that could be another thing that which could be a sign of an imbalance. Again, gas and bloating is our favorite. So many of us feel like in the morning when you wake up, your stomach is flat, you feel great in the morning, and as you eat breakfast and then by lunch, your stomach completely pops out. And you feel like, what just happened? Why did I just seem like I gained weight from morning to afternoon? Or some of us alternatively feel that bloating is maximum in the morning, your face is puffy, your legs feel puffy, your stomach is bloated in the morning, and as you get into activity, drinking water through the day, it goes down. Or maybe you feel like there are certain times in the day you keep passing gas, so that's another sign of imbalance. The next one is joint pain, is another very common one. It could be a shifting joint pain from your knees to your back to every different forms. You feel like sometimes your back is stiff, sometimes your knees are stiff, sometimes your fingers hurt, sometimes your ankles hurt, and that pain keeps shifting. So that could also be relating to a microbiome imbalance in the body. Another one that's not mentioned here is related maybe to moods, which could be another factor. Like your moods, you feel edgy, irritated all the time. You feel like you'll snap at the moment of somebody saying something to you, and you don't know why you feel like that. That could again be related to this, and to your microbiome being imbalanced. And last but not the least, it could be related to even like having maybe say skin rashes or having allergies or having like a itching or having like a redness on the skin or acne. That could again be related to having a gut microbiome imbalance. And last but not the least is your sleep issues. Some of you may be having sleep issues where you'll have insomnia, you'll have disturbed sleep, you feel like you're not rested even after sleeping well at night. You sleep for 8 hours, but you get up in the morning feeling you're not rested, right? So I've covered a lot of information here to know for you that you may have a gut issue. So Tejashree, can we move into a poll right now? We don't have all of the ones that I've covered, but the top, these 5 that I've covered here, I would like you all to take a poll with that. So Tejashree, can you help me with it?
Yes, sure. Now our viewers could see the poll. I'm launching it for them. So as Janvi had discussed, you can put up your vote for the symptoms that you are facing or experiencing these days, or maybe in and out if you are experiencing any of the above mentioned symptoms. So as I could see, yes, the votes are coming in. We will wait for more 2 to 3 minutes, and then we will close up the poll.
Yes, let's be really honest about what we feel. Don't feel like, oh, I don't know if I can talk about it or not. I think starting with being honest to your own self is the first thing that you can do to get yourself to the right kind of solution for it. So yeah, I think it's very important. And for the ones who choose none, it's amazing if you don't have any of these issues. So I think y'all should come this side and I'll help y'all and come along. We'll take a session together, right?
So here are the results. I'm sharing it over the screen.
Correct. So, right. So I think, yes, so I can clearly see. So we have the most, I think, prevalent one is constipation, gas and bloating. So I think, today, just right after this, I'm going to be sharing some of the most amazing foods that can help you take care of constipation, gas and bloating. So I think it's great. Thank you so much for being so honest. And for the ones I said who don't have any of these symptoms, it's great. I'm sure you're doing something right for your gut. So that's amazing. And, obviously also the 19% that spoke about weight gain. It could be stemming from having some digestive issues, like I said, which could be relating back to not being able to see a weight loss or seeing that lightness on the scale or in the body too much, you know. So I think we'll come back to that also. So let's move to the next thing, which is the top few foods that we can actually include right now in the system to be able to help you really eat the right things for your gut, and which will help you again to reduce inflammation, also see help you have a better microbiome balance, which will instantly have a connection to your weight, hormones, everything. All right. So the top 5 tips that I would like you to talk about, which you may want to make notes of and try to integrate. Number 1 is fiber. So fiber in every form of soluble and insoluble fiber, both are great for your system. So fiber is really the food that your body survives on in terms of your gut bacteria survive on fiber. So fiber can be in the form of, say, your vegetables, your salads. It can be in the form of soup, but it can also be in the form of maybe say a jawar, a nachni, maybe a rajgira, a buckwheat like a puttu atta, oats. All of these can also give you good amount of fiber, so you can even integrate them in your diet. Maybe at least 2 bowls of full of vegetable. What we do is we have like rotis and rice, and we have this much vegetable, right? So you may want to increase the quantity of vegetable. And just right now as a pro tip, because I'm also a part right now of the COVID-19 helpline with some of the MD physicians, I would just suggest that you want to try to be able to avoid raw food. So maybe a raw salad is something you want to avoid right now. But apart from that, you can cook up a nice stir fry at home or do a soup. That'll be a great option to add the fiber. Apart from that, soluble fiber you can definitely have in the form of oats, maybe barley, you can have apple. All of these contain soluble fiber. That's a great addition. So please increase your fiber intake, and that's very good for your gut and to make your gut feel healthy. So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2, you want to try and integrate probiotics. So probiotics again is a very important factor here. Probiotics are basically the beneficial bacteria for your gut. So the good guys that we're talking about, right? So like I said, the good and bad both are important for us. It's only that we don't want to have excess of the bad bacteria, pathogens in our body. So what helps you increase the good bacteria in your gut? Number 1, you can see a bowl of curd on the other side of the screen, right? So curd, yogurt, as we know, is great in probiotics, natural probiotics. So you can have that. If you're somebody who cannot do well with dairy and does give you a problem, or it leads to giving you acidity or gives you discomfort, you can even try to have maybe say fermented vegetables made at home, maybe cabbage or fermented cabbage. You can do a sauerkraut or kimchi. You get a lot of recipes online. If you want to search on YouTube, you'll get a great way to prepare those. So you could do them at home out of especially just ginger and cabbage and fermenting it, or simply go back to making the home-based nani style pickles. You know, nanis and dadis used to make our pickles and used to enjoy them. So going back to the basics, using pickles which are low on salt and low on oil, but used in the right proportion, can be also a great way to add the right probiotics into your system. So that's the natural way of doing that. Number 3 is prebiotics. So like I said, your probiotics are your good beneficial bacteria, but for them to do their job well, like we need nourishment, even they need nourishment. And the food for them, for the good bacteria to survive, comes from the prebiotics. So the prebiotics that you get at home, and for the people who are not gens, the good option is to be able to have onions and garlics are a great form of prebiotics. You may want to integrate them in your daily food, and that will help you to be able to give the right kind of nourishment and nutrition to the good bacteria in your gut, and they will do their job well. So that's point number 3. Point number 4 is coming to a natural gut cleaner. All right, so like most of us here with a 31% talking about having constipation issues. So the fiber, prebiotic, probiotic are definitely really going to help you with the gas and the bloating, and help you along with having the right balance. But for a quick tip for people who have gas and bloating, you want to hear this natural gut cleaner and note it down right now, right? So half a teaspoon of jeera, half a teaspoon of having sauf, if you have sauf at home, 1 pinch of hing, and 1 pinch of ajwain. In warm water, boil it and reduce it to half, and that's a great way if you want to integrate that after your lunch and after your dinner. that'll be amazing for you to be able to have that, and it will help you get a clearer motion the next day. So you want to try and definitely be able to make use of that, and it will instantly help you release some of the gas that's there in your system. So you definitely want to try and do that as a matter of fact, and it's great for your body. So you want to try do that, but remember one thing, you want to do all of these a little bit together. If you're only going to eat maybe say a chivra and then you have jeera ajwain, it may not really help you a lot. So you want to try and make the healthy choice, and alongside with the healthy choice, use the natural gut cleaner. So together you'll have a better impact. Also, water is a very important factor. Please have a lot of water. If you have fiber, but you don't increase your water intake, it may not help. So you want to definitely try and increase your water intake for whatever you're having, at least by a half a liter to 1 liter. And last but not the least is your relaxation for your gut. So a lot of us right now are facing a lot of anxiety, nervousness, stress through the conditions we are going in right now, and we all are feeling different emotional balances, right? Sometimes we're feeling okay, sometimes we're not. So I'm going to give you top tips right now to be able to help you calm down the nerves of your gut, which will help you reduce your stress levels, reduce your cortisol, manage your weight better, and also help the nerves of your gut to relax and make you feel good. All right. So we also know we all feel these butterflies in the stomach when we are anxious, excited, all of that. That's related to the way that your gut and your brain function. And they all are related to the way your stress hormones also react. So without going into too much technicality, tip number one, if you have chamomile tea at home, which is a flower-based tea, which is amazing to calm down the nerves of your gut, you may want to have that at night when you're sitting and relaxing with your family and loved ones. Have a cup of chamomile tea. For some of you may say, okay, Janvi, I don't have chamomile tea, and who I don't want you to step out and run and go to the next store and stand in the line right now and do that. You may want to try and integrate mint leaves into your, kind of routine. So 5 to 6 mint leaves boiled is a great option to cool down your system, and because it's getting really, really hot. So you want to try and do that. You want to have a mint water, which will also help you with that. So that's another way to really calm down your system and cool your system down. Chamomile definitely is more effective, but you can definitely try this. Next, you want to be able to probably even try if you have magnesium at home or a magnesium supplement at home, or magnesium rich foods like if you have nuts, seeds, you have green leafy vegetables. Like I said, if you have yogurt, if you can have dairy, also has magnesium in it. Magnesium really helps to improve the motion cycle. So all the people who are constipated here, if you integrate these things which are high magnesium, they will help to be able to help improve your motion cycles, help you see that weight loss, because that gas and bloating will also help you not see that weight loss. So that will also will be really helpful to integrate that and help you calm down the nerves of your gut and reduce anxiety. Right? So a lot of tips here. So let's move into the second poll that we have here. Right, Tejashree, let's do a poll of what do you think are things that you will be able to integrate into your lifestyle right now and add on value to your gut health and help your weight. Right, Tejashree, let's move into the...
Yes, Janvi, I'm launching our second poll for the day. And yes, all the viewers, the poll is up there. And after listening to this, you must be back thinking that what all we can incorporate out of fiber, probiotics, prebiotics, or natural gut cleaner, what can be included in your routine. So just think over and let us know what ingredient or the what top 5 foods you are going to include. So
right, absolutely.
Yes.
Please remember and understand that today, really the session is going to be most worthwhile if you come back with one thing also you take back home today that you think you're going to do, which will really help your system. And I think you've done the right thing, because it's one thing is about hearing what to do, and the second is actually doing that for your body, right? So I think that's the most important thing. And I think even that one step that you take is so valuable for your body. And I'm really proud of the fact that if you're going to take that step towards your health, that's really amazing, So I think,
yeah. So the results are here, and
absolutely.
Now you can see.
All right, great. So we have a lot of people here looking at probiotics and fiber. Great. That's amazing. That's amazing. So yes, I think fiber is the easiest thing to add. So is the probiotics. So definitely, and wow, it's surprising fact that prebiotics is zero. So I believe I'm talking to a lot of Jains, am I? Right? So nobody's having onion and garlic. So great. But anyway, so and I'm sure that these together as a combination is great. And yes, best to start with the most easiest sustainable change for you to make. So I'm really glad you try and pick up something which is realistically possible for you right now to continue over the next couple of days. So thank you so much for being so honest and being so participative in this entire change. So thank you so much for that. All right. So last thing that I'd really like to talk about today is, again, like I said, the connection of inflammation, your dysbiosis, which is the imbalance of your gut bacteria, and all of this is really, really important for you to understand, because right now I'm really taking this back to our current situation and correlating it back with COVID-19. So some of the studies that have been done and some of the really brilliant researchers from some of the functional medicine and practitioners across the world has been shared that obesity right now can increase the susceptibility to be able to catch the virus by 3 times more. Okay, and having comorbidities like diabetes, blood pressure, having a heart disease issue, alongside with being obese can increase your susceptibility to catch the virus by 10 times more. So please understand that the body is immunocompromised, so your immunity is compromised when you're obese and when you're actually for that matter of fact, when you have any of these comorbidities. So you want to really work towards making that effort for yourself right now, which is very, very, very important. Secondly, I would want you to really know that there is this study which has been done, I think by France or Italy, which I read very interestingly, saying that people who got the virus for 50% more likely chances of being ventilated or intubated just by having the risk of being obese, 50% more chances of being on the ventilator by just being obese, and the higher challenge of recovery was seen in them. So please, let's try and understand that the need to be able to work on our gut health, work on inflammation, work on being able to really make a healthy lifestyle change. The time is now more than ever. Another very interesting study which spoke about the fact was also that even people who were like about 33.8% more chances of having probably higher or lower chances of like recovering sooner was related to diabetes and hypertension also. So for diabetes it was 33.8%, and for hypertension it was 56.6% higher chances of being able to see a lower recovery rate, or lower chances or lower rate at which the speed of recovery was happening. So that's really important for us to understand. So please, let's really make this a point at this time that we're understanding the paramount importance of being fitter than ever. So many of us here, really, I'd like to just add value by, so I'm really making these facts very clear today so that you see the value of how important this is for us right now. Also, obviously, these were factors taken into consideration along with looking at age, the population, looking at sex of the person and those kind of things, but also without, even with people who were looking at a higher risk group of 60 plus, even without that factor, obesity has been one of the more driving factors for immunity compromise. So just one last thing I'd like to speak about before we move into the lovely interactive question session really is just one thing that, I know we all are home right now, our families are home, we all are probably in the kitchen making various meals for our families. Maybe some days there is shivda, maybe some days there is misal pav, maybe some days there is whatever that we're making for our family, and we're thinking, oh, I've tried to lose weight so many times, and I've probably not successfully been able to do it a lot of times that I've tried to lose weight. But please understand a very important factor here, that these are the 3 questions that I would like to leave you with before we move into the next section of questions, is that 3 questions before you give into maybe a binge eating, or before you give into really eating something that that's not going to help your gut health. You want to really empower yourself by asking yourself these 3 questions. Number 1 is you want to ask yourself, is the need for you to eat something a psychological hunger or a physiological hunger? So sometimes maybe out of stress, boredom, just temptation, you land up eating something which you wouldn't have eaten otherwise. So you want to ask yourself that. Number two, before eating any other meal which you know that's not healthy for you, and connecting back to your gut feeling, like I said, to listen to your intuition of your body, because your body really knows what it needs best for its nutrition. Going back to your intuitive feeling of listening to your body, asking yourself, for a matter of fact, that really you want to ask yourself a very important question is that after eating something, will you feel guilty or not? A lot of times you'll end up eating something, then you feel so bad why you ate it. So maybe before, instead of getting into that process, if you ask yourself for a moment before impulsively eating something, that will make it very, very powerful for you. And last but not the least, I would really like to urge you all to see that each meal that we eat right now really is going to be adding value in terms of immunity for your body or destroying your immunity. So really adding, so having sugar, having fried foods, having maybe alcohol, having processed foods, all of these things right now can literally bring down your immunity or crash your immunity for the next 4 to 5 hours just by eating something that's not healthy for you. You know, so you want to understand the value of making each choice an important choice for your body, and love the body that you stay in. Have gratitude for it doing its work amazingly well every day. Take care of your gut health because it has such an important role to play with your weight and immunity. And really, really fall in love with your body and yourself all over again by making your health important for you. So thank you so much for having me here today. And I'm happy to be able to answer all your questions related to maybe allergies, intolerances, headaches, anything that you have, gas and bloating, constipation. I'm happy to be able to answer all your questions on gut health and weight with that. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Janvi, for the amazing session today. And you really made us understand, realize the importance of the hero of our body, that is our gut, and making us realize that we should start listening to the symptoms, start understanding the communication that body is creating with us. And thank you for the short sessions about why it is important to focus on gut health and weight loss during this situation of pandemic. And now, as the question have started pouring in, I would quickly move on to the question answer session. Yes. And to start with, the first question for the day is, like, is kefir good for gut health?
Yes, so kefir is definitely a good, kind of a addition that you can have. Kefir or kombucha as a probiotic can be had, but for certain people, just to keep in mind that if you've not had it before, you want to definitely have before eating, having kefir or kombucha, you want to have it checked through like a gut specialist like me or maybe somebody else who understands that. So, for example, if you have a small intestinal bacteria overgrowth, that may not be a good sign for you to be able to have a probiotic or have a kefir or maybe have a kombucha, because it may increase fermentation and give you a lot of more gas. So just understanding the specifics as to certain conditions which may not do well with a kefir or a kombucha or whatever is something we need to understand more in detail. Otherwise, it's a great addition. And like I said, you can make kefir kombucha at home also if you like, with the guidance of the video. So, and if anybody needs to understand more, I'm happy to share links on that.
Okay. And the next question is related to kefir only. How often we can take it?
So kefir can be taken almost, say, about, a lot of people like to have kefir in small amounts every other day, like how you have a buttermilk. In the same way, you can have kefir because it's like your body needs the probiotic every day. It's not like we have a booster dose that you have once a week and then it's done. So if you can manage to have in small quantities every day, that's a better way to do that and continue that process so your body knows that it's getting the right probiotics every other day. So if you can manage that, I would suggest that you can have a little bit every day, maybe say this much, half a glass, and depending, again, it's very bio-individual to understand how much kefir does well for each person. So you want to always start, for anybody who's starting with any of these, want to start with a smaller quantity first, and then see and slowly increase the quantity. So you know your digestive system is ready with the cue that these probiotics are coming in and they can handle it. So that's why.
So it's necessary to develop the potential of the gut
Absolutely.
to handle it.
Yes, have that communication with your gut and tell your gut that, okay, this is coming your way.
Right. And the next is, does fermented food increase your acidity?
Again, so fermented food may not increase your acidity for each person. Like I mentioned, that it is really specific to each condition that you may have. So for somebody who already has a hyperacidity or a GERD issue, for them, there are people, like I see day on day, I normally see people who have all of these issues together, and it's very, very bio-individual. Like I said, it depends, varies on a lot of factors, whether fermented food in their case would give them more acidity or not. So my top tip for that right now, simple thing is, if you're not aware of whether it's going to do well with you or not, simple tip, like I said, is start small. Start with a very small quantity. Try and have it in the first half of the day when your digestive fire is much higher. Then in the second half of the day when the digestion is slowly moving towards a more restful thing. So try and start that. And maybe you want to have that along with another food. So maybe if you're having fermented vegetables as a small part of your plate while you're eating your food, it's a better option than having it all standalone. So this is my suggestion to you. And definitely each case would be different. So there may be certain cases the body is more sensitive. We'll need to see that one-on-one for that.
Okay. So it is important to start with small quantity.
Absolutely.
In the
and have the
half
first
of
of
the
the
day.
day to start with it, yes.
Okay. And can you suggest some home remedies on daily basis for a good gut, I guess?
So one, like I mentioned, is the Jeera Ajwain water that I told you. It's a brilliant way to be able to clear the gases and everything from the system and help you get a better bowel. Like I said, food, fiber, and water are also great benefits. So the basics is first to go back to fiber and water. A lot of us don't have as much fiber and water as we should. So that is number one. This is one gut cleaner. Apart from that, you can also, for inflammation sometimes in the intestines, my other top tip is to be able to add any anti-inflammatory agent naturally, which helps you with your system and reducing inflammation in the intestines and in the gut. So you want to add maybe say half a teaspoon of haldi. You want to add one pinch or maybe half a teaspoon again of ginger, which is grated fresh, or ginger powder or salt powder that we have. You want to try and add one pinch of pepper, and then add say half a teaspoon of either virgin pressed coconut oil or ghee in warm water, and then boil that and then have that. So that's really a potent anti-inflammatory agent. Please do not forget to add the pepper or the coconut oil or ghee, because that improves the bioavailability of the curcumin from the haldi that we are having. So haldi and ginger obviously come from the same family. So we have that amba haldi that we all know at home. That is more specifically better than just having the haldi like that. And I would suggest obviously add haldi to your food also, but try and also consume some of it raw so that the inflammation goes down. Sometimes it's not just about cleaning your system, but it's also to reduce the inflammation that's caused by the triggers that are happening time and again, by the sugar that we eat, by the foods that we eat which are not healthy, like I said, the fried foods that we eat. So they cause inflammation. So this will really help to reduce inflammation and improve the motility of your system. So you can try these two, and like I said, start with the basics always. Fiber and water, absolutely very important.
Okay. Can you just once again repeat the recipe for the, yes, the haldi.
So you want to have half a teaspoon of haldi. You want to have maybe again half a teaspoon of ginger. Again, it could be dry salt powder, or it can even be like the shredded ginger, which is fresh natural ginger, half a teaspoon. You want to add one pinch of kali miri or pepper to that. You want to add half a teaspoon of ghee or half a teaspoon of virgin pressed coconut oil, and put these all ingredients together in water. Boil that water and then be able to have it. I would ideally suggest you can start your day with that. It's quite a good way to start your day with that. But for again, I'll mention, because we're talking about this, for anybody who knows that they have a very, very hyperacidity issue, and cannot start their day with something so heaty, I would suggest that they first start with something more alkaline, maybe have a fruit or something, and an hour after that they can have this water. So that's all.
Okay.
And for the jeera ajwain water that I mentioned, again you could have that at night if you're having this water in the morning. So that way you have a whole balance in the morning, you get a clearer motion. Again, if you want, I'll just repeat: half a teaspoon of jeera, half a teaspoon of sauf, 1 pinch of hing, and 1 pinch of ajwain in warm water is a great gut cleaner that you can have at night. And remember, all of these are available in our kitchen. Everything that we need for our body, food is literally medicine. So just the right choice is important. So you have everything at home that you need to really make your gut function well. So I hope we learn to understand that and value that.
The both decoction needs to be made into half, right? The quantity
So
has to be ready.
jeera ajwain, I would definitely suggest is easier to do that, and really it's more concentrated. With haldi and ginger, you don't need to really get it into half. You can just a lot of people are using that today without ginger. A lot of people are also, I would suggesting for people who are calling me on the helpline, I'm telling them to use that with some pepper, ghee, haldi, and a little bit of rock salt. People are using to even gargle for anti-inflammatory. So you can even do that if you like it. Or for people, like I said, who find it very difficult and haldi and all is very heaty for them, they can use it for a gargle, because then it's not staying so long in a system. You're gargling, you're letting it touch your throat, reduce inflammation, and then you're letting it out. So for people who can't have it and they're very sensitive to very heaty things, they can even do this.
Okay. And the next question is related to water retention. So is water retention is associated with a gut imbalance or a gut health?
Correct. So yes, water retention can be, in a way, not directly but indirectly associated with gut health. So water retention, primarily what it means is that water retention is primarily caused by basic two reasons. I'm not going into the more complex reasons. There could be many conditions which cause the water retention, like kidney conditions. I'm not going to go into that. Number one cause for water retention is related to the water intake that we have. It's like, we know our bodies, right? That we want, when we need food and we don't give it food for like 6, 8 hours, people don't eat, at all. Obviously, your body is trying to store whatever it knows best, right? Because it doesn't know when it's going to get its next store. The same way, water is something that, as a thirst receptor, so many times we are actually thirsty, but we don't have water. We tend to eat something rather than having water. So we want to try and understand that water retention happens because of lack of enough water in the body, and probably because of extra salt or processed foods that we eat, which are high on sodium, which tend to cause water retention. So another reason why I've seen typically is that when people tend to have a lot more foods which are processed, they tend to find a way to probably create more gas and water retention together in a way that could be related to a gut imbalance. Also, sometimes hypothyroidism, which may not be in your normal levels of TSH are shown in the results. But if you have even an autoimmune form of a hypothyroid, which is related to water retention also, and your gut, can be another cause. So you want to try and ensure, number one, for them, water intake needs to increase, your salt intake needs to decrease, and you want to try and move to a less sodium-based salt, like a pink salt, rock salt. And you want to be able to ensure that you're having enough amount of fiber, so that that extra water, your body is able to bind with that fiber and throw it out of your system, and it gets all the vitamins get reabsorbed the right way, and it's out of the system. So you want to try, and that may be the connection with water retention and gut health.
So we need to check the grocery list whether the sodium containing processed foods are on high or not.
Absolutely.
And the next is, I would say it's related to gas and bloating. So the question is how one can get rid of gases. So we can.
So again, going back to, like I said, the major pretext of gas is, I think that is what people need to understand, that gas is formed when the motions are not clear. So the basic thing is that, we have, for example, like from a small intestine and a large intestine is where our wastes are kept before they are excreted. And a lot of water that is reabsorbed and all the vitamins are reabsorbed through our large intestine. We need to make sure that the motions are clearly out like I said, on a day-to-day basis, if maybe once or twice a day, you should be able to go without putting a lot of pressure. So, like I said, if you don't want gas and bloating, definitely the Jeera Ajwain one is a top tip that you want to use.
Right.
And you can have this water. But apart from that, you want to have the right combination of soluble and insoluble fiber. So you want to do your vegetables, you want to do your soup, you want to do all of that in good quantity to reduce the gas and this thing. So your main question here you want to see is, when you have gas and bloating, do you really take time to be able to go to motion? So if you need to go to motion and sit for 15 minutes to put all the pressure to go, you know that the gas and bloating is coming from there. So really figuring out the root of the cause is important. So see, I do believe Jeera Ajwain water is great. It will help you take care of your symptoms and everything of gas and bloating, but you're not solving the problem till you're not solving maybe constipation or your rate of motility. So please increase water and fiber, add both soluble and insoluble fiber at the options like I mentioned. And again, please understand that, you know, that is the base of correcting the issue and not just working on the symptoms. And even about that, after doing all of these things, your gas and bloating don't go, then it's very important to check for a yeast overgrowth or a small intestinal bacteria overgrowth or a histamine intolerance. And that's where you need somebody who is an expert in that field to help you out with that.
Right. And the next question is really very interesting. Like we discussed about the symptoms, signs and symptoms to find out gut imbalance. So it is in relation to this. So is there any other way apart from signs and symptoms that we can come to know is our gut healthy or not? Like we have blood test or some, which gives us a written proof or something related to that.
Sure. So the basic test that you can do to understand that without seeing signs and symptoms, and if you don't know, if you're not getting any, one is definitely to do a stool test. So you can get a stool test done to see if there is, you know, sometimes you'll see probably there is a level for bacteria and things like that, which are also there in our stool test. So, you know, you'll know clearly when it's beyond a certain level. Sometimes even people who see a bacteria testing can go for a stool culture test to understand more in detail. So that is one option. Second is normally, like I mentioned, that gut issues come alongside with inflammation. So doing a CRP quantitative level of a blood test and doing an ESR test may be really helpful to be able to understand at a baseline if there is high levels of inflammation. There is also a test called fecal calprotectin test. So you can do a calprotectin test also to see inflammation markers. So that may be another way to understand if there is a gut issue. And last but not the least, there is something called a urine organic acid dysbiotic test. That also helps you to see in the urine if there is, like, you know, when there is extra FODMAPs or when there is any kind of an intolerance there, these tests can also be done. But for somebody who doesn't want to do so many, I'd say at least do a basic stool test, and you can at least do the inflammation markers to start with. If anything comes off in this, then we can look at the further testing that can be done. And then correlated with your dietary recall or correlated with your symptoms and try to understand whether further testing is required. I do believe testing is important, but I feel your body is the best window to figure out everything before you go into testing. I can give you a 20 test list that you can do right now. But I feel like if your body can be the best blood test that you could ever do for yourself, choose that first and then move into testing. Yeah.
Okay, so we really need to work on symptoms and rethinking and associating it with the gut health.
Absolutely.
Going for the test.
Absolutely.
Okay. And the next one is related to probiotics. As you had mentioned that curd is a good probiotics. Apart from curd, can you suggest some other sources which are probiotics and the association with improving the gut microbes?
So probiotics, like I mentioned, so you already spoke a lot about like kefir, kombucha, fermented vegetables, pickles, having curd. So see, there is only those many things that are easily right now possible or available or to possibly do in our diet to increase the probiotic levels. I would suggest at this point in time, apart from that, if some of us, because being pressed for time, and because, you know, already cooking and there's so much to do and you can't really manage to ferment vegetables separately and do other things, and if curd doesn't go down well with you, I would suggest that a probiotic supplement will also be a good option right now because we're trying to build up immunity, and probiotics are very important. Like I said, 70 to 80% of our immune cells are in our gut. So if they don't get the right balance of bacteria, you're not going to be able to keep up your immunity, which is very important. So, so a very important aspect here is that you may want to try and add in some through your food and some through a supplementation. So an easily available supplementation outside would be something called VSL3. VSL3 is available at a chemist over the counter. You don't need a prescription for it. And it basically has live, dried, freezed lactobacilli and bifidobacterium, which are the most important basic probiotic strains that should be there. So I'd suggest, because the curd alone is actually not enough giving us all the probiotics we need.
Right.
This is just a start for it. So I'd suggest that you can actually integrate both.
Okay.
Very, very important for us to be able to do that. So I would suggest that if you don't have VSL3, it's probably say out of stock or it's not available. Another second option that you could probably try is something called Flori Store. There is FLORISTORE, Flori Store, or a Vibact or something is something that you can use to at least start with some amount of probiotic alongside with these options.
Okay. And is Yakult, we can go for a Yakult probiotic drink?
So honestly, a very, very honest opinion on Yakult is that I feel that now they've recently come up with a blue format of a lower sugar kind of a probiotic. You know, they had the red one, I think, initially, which was the original Yakult that we all know. So I'm not a very big fan of Yakult specifically for the reason because it's very, very high on the sugar content. So I feel like it's better for you to be able to try and go in for these than to go in for a Yakult. That's my personal opinion. So I feel like it's better. You can try and move in for a better kind of a probiotic supplement.
Like okay. So because of the sugar content, we should move on to other courses.
So I think they probably realized that, and that's the reason now they came up with a low sugar one.
Right, right.
So sometimes I've seen that the low sugar one sometimes not available very readily as much as the red one is, which is high on sugar. So
right, right. And can we eat curd at night? Because as it is a probiotic, we need to include it for gut health. So what you would suggest?
So curd, again, there is a multifactorial approach to this. Like I said, again, for some people, they feel when they have curd at night, that gives them a bad cold and a cough, or that irritates their throat. For some people, when they have curd after 6 o'clock, they feel their joints feel stiff and there is inflammation in the joints, so like osteoarthritic change,
right.
There's joint pain. So I think the answer to this really lies in what you think works best for you, because there is no standard answer for this. For some people, they can have curd all their life at night. They've been having for 20 years, nothing happened to them. So I would suggest that you want to go by, what works best for you. I always tell everybody who comes to see me in my nutrition practice, I tell them that you are your best nutritionist. If anybody knows your body better than you, there is nobody, not your doctor, not your nutritionist. So I'd really suggest that you want to go by what you know works best for you. But if you are worried at this point in time, because we're worried that if we catch a cough and cold right now, because of the room temperature change and everything, my only suggestion would be that you want to try and be able to keep it out for maybe 30 minutes, get it to a room temperature. Don't have it very, very chilled if you're having it at night. And for the people who feel that they get gas or joint pain with it, and if you still want to have it at night, if you want to try it, you may want to put some jeera and pepper into your curd and have it. So that inflammation or impact may come down. So these are the two things that I'd like to recommend. But at the end of it, I think it's a choice that you want to make.
Okay. And ideally, at home, the way we prepare curd is just to lukewarm the milk and to add the starter culture, like previous day curd in it, and allow it to rest. So is this the right way that we are following, or there are some revisions that need to be made?
So that you could do, but I would always suggest, yes, you can do it that way. But the important part is to be able to keep a bowl of that curd, probably in a cool, but yet like a dry place, maybe like your inside maybe a microwave or inside a more closed place. And the main key is to keep your, to set the curd well, is to keep a little bit of your lid, which is there on the curd, slightly open for that fermentation process to happen the right way.
Okay.
So you can heat it up and use it, and then let it cool down first, and then add the starter culture in it. But the main thing is to keep it in the cool, dry place and keep it slightly open, and be able to let the fermentation process happen.
Okay. Thank you for the insights on it. And the next is passing motions in the evening healthy or unhealthy?
Again, I'll always go back to saying, like I said, that every person, like I said, our microbiomes are so they're so individual and unique to each one of us. So is our way of going for motions, or our training of our poop training that we've had over the years. So, 2, 3 things that you want to keep in mind. Number one is, when you have the second motion in the day, I don't think it's important to see whether two motions are great to have in the day. It's not a problem to have two motions. But the thing that you want to check for is that, number one, is the second motion in the day really hard? If it comes with a lot of pressure, you have the need to go, but the urge is there, but it's really hard for you to pass a motion. You want to check on that, number one. Number two, you also want to check on the fact whether the consistency of the second motion is loose. Some people have a well-formed motion in the morning, but second evening motion is really loose or is not well-formed. So you want to check whether it's well-formed or not. So it could be either not very tight, not very loose. And thirdly, sometimes people also do have motions in the evening, which the quantity of motion, and I'm sorry I'm talking so much in detail about the poop, but it's very important to understand that. So sometimes people have very, very less quantity of motion, but there's a lot of flatulence and gas that comes out. So I think these three factors are very important to be able to understand when you're trying to judge whether it's a healthy thing for you to have a second motion. So standard normal motion in the evening is great if you have it, and it's a regular feature. But if these three are really factors which you need to account for, you definitely need to talk to a gut nutritionist to understand why is that happening. Either maybe you have an underlying irritable bowel syndrome, or maybe what you're eating, your fiber is not getting bound really well, or maybe, like you're saying, the body is developing a lot more gas, and like the body is not being able to clear up the gas really well from the system, and that's why there is so much flatulence in the system. Or maybe there's an allergy or an intolerance to something you're eating, which is causing that gas to build up in the second half of the day. So morning you just had one meal, or maybe you've gone first thing in the morning without even eating anything. But the second motion that you're having is after eating a couple of meals. So these things
Right.
are things you want to keep in mind.
Okay. And the next is how anyone can clean their stomach instantly to maintain a healthy gut flora. Are there any mechanisms by which we can cleanse it?
So cleansing, I think cleansing, as a matter of fact, the only way to cleanse your system is to be able to really have a good kind of a format of having the food in and the food out. That is the most natural way of cleansing. And the body already knows how to cleanse itself. It didn't even need to learn to do that. Like, we came knowing this process innately. Food, eating food, knowing the cue of hunger, going to motion is something we learned even as a child. I think all the things that we've kind of learned over the years with environmental influences have actually messed that up more than they've helped us, because we've learned to do a lot of things which are not done well with the kind of balance of that innate education that we already have. So my suggestion only is that there is nothing which is going to be an instant cleanse. Like I said, the only thing, like I said, you can do to have, like, the jeera water and all these things are great to be able to at least help you clear your system if it's not doing well. But I think the only clue here that I would like to pick up again is that there is no instant cleanse for the body. It's really consistency in maintaining a balance of having the food in and food out, which you should know, which should continue, and your body already knows that. And I think the other thing which really drives it is, even when sometimes people are having enough fiber, they don't have enough water. So sometimes I feel that if you feel that you're not able to go very clearly, although you want to go, the only other thing that I would suggest instantly you may help is to take up a glass of warm water. So sometimes what happens, the stool is there, everything is ready, the pressure is there, but the stool is hard. So having something that will soften your stool may be something that will help you to instantly, kind of just help you be able to easily pass that motion immediately, although, when there is an urge. So that may be the only thing that you may want to try and do. And otherwise, try to keep up the balance of eating right and going right.
Okay. So let's leave the work to the body of cleansing.
Absolutely.
And, the next is, can you quickly explain us the association of gut health and weight gain?
So like I mentioned very clearly that, like I said, that gut health and weight gain, primarily the correlation comes. So this microbiome, like I mentioned, affects everything from our immunity, our digestion, our metabolism. So what basically happens is, like I said, that when there is a process of dysbiosis, that is when the bad bacteria increase far over the good bacteria, they tend to cause a process of inflammation, like I mentioned. Inflammation, like I told you, is a process which is the starter of any disease in the body. So when there is a lot of inflammatory cytokines which are released in the body, they do obviously also cause a lot of extra stress in the body. And that leads to a change in the hormones, that leads to change in the way our digestive system works, that leads to a change in the way that our body is processing its normal functioning, and even your cortisol levels may go up because of the stress levels, because of the inflammation. So cortisol also leads to weight gain, hormonal changes and imbalances also lead to weight gain. Also, when your digestive system goes for a toss, and you may have the allergy, intolerance, autoimmune conditions, or like a Hashimoto's thyroiditis or rheumatoid arthritis, then you may move into taking more medications, which again also lead to weight gain. So this is really the kind of a spiraling effect that weight gain comes around with. So it may not be that, okay, today I have a gut issue and tomorrow itself I see my weight go up. The most closest connection of your gut and your weight instantly showing a difference will come through your constipation, gas, and bloating. Today I've lost 1 kilo, I've done my diet really well, and my stomach cleaned really well. I'll say, okay, I'm feeling good, I've lost a kilo, I'm feeling light on my stomach. The next day I don't clear well because I went to a party and I ate something, and I don't clear well. The next day you may instantly see 500 grams are up. And you feel like, what just happened? It could be because your body didn't clear well and there are still toxins in the body. So that is your closest immediate connection of weight. But otherwise, primarily it is to do with the entire cycle of inflammation, cortisol raise, hormonal changes, and this dysregulation of the balance of your good and bad microbes that lead to weight gain.
So basically it affects the hormonal which cause weight gain.
Correct. It causes, yeah, the hormonal imbalance. It causes an imbalance in the way your digestive system also works. Right. And digestion plays such an important role because even if you're, whatever you're eating has to go through the right channel for it to be able to have worked for you in the right way, right? And not add on excess in the body. But if your digestion is only compromised and absorption is compromised of the right nutrients in the body, you're not going to be able to help yourself. Right. So that's very important. Also, the gut helps you to be able to modulate the immune responses from, say, when you're having foods which probably are storing in plastic dabbas. You want to change that because the toxins which are coming from a bisphenol A or it's coming from a sodium lauryl sulfate, which are all these endotoxins in our body, your gut helps you cleanse that very well. Sometimes even these toxins lead to be able to, they're coming with your food, they're adding to weight gain and we don't even realizing that. So all these toxins, they can be coming in the form of anything through our consumption of food, through our makeup, through anything. So we need to really be able to understand these things in more detail. And they also have to pass through your gut channel. So your gut health is very important for that so that you can be able to excrete the toxins well. And the body is not doing that, that will also lead to weight gain.
Okay. And as we are running short of time,
yes,
quickly, there are many questions, but we will address those as well. But a few more, 2 questions, and then we will move on. The next is like, can we have the jeera and ajwain water even during pregnancy?
So I would suggest that ajwain probably will be a little more heaty. Hing and ajwain can be heaty. So I would suggest jeera and sauf is a good option to have during pregnancy.
Okay. And can licorice help digestion? Can we take it?
Yes.
Okay.
So licorice is really, really helpful. But there is something called a form of, it's called DGL for short form. You need to find the DGL form of licorice because that is the one which is really, really helpful, not licorice extract alone. So please look out for the DGL form.
Okay. And a quick last one, because we are short of time. What about your insights on fermented gruels?
Fermented?
Gruel.
So I would suggest that you want to, so what exactly do you want to know about that? Do you want to have it, or should you be having it or not? Because
Basically, we can consider the fermented food that we have. Can we include that as a
that is what.
probiotic?
So yes, definitely you can, right? So like I mentioned that as a probiotic, they can be added into your daily intake of food. And again, the main thing is the point here is to have consistency. If you're going to add that, like I said, as we need fats, proteins, complex carbohydrates every other day, in the same way, the fermented food is also something like the probiotics are needed for your body every other day in some amount of quantity. So the point is, if you're doing fermented foods, try to incorporate them in your daily lifestyle of eating food. And if you're not able to, then supplement them through a supplementation, because they're equally important. You don't have them once a month and say, okay, I'm done for my probiotic supply for my body. So yes, adding fermented foods will be a good way to do that. And like our foods may not be enough optimally to get all the impact, because you can have up to 5 to 10 CFU, 10 million CFU of probiotic levels, which you don't get everything from just a bowl of curd, even if you've eaten it twice a day. So fermented foods are a great way to start, but I would always suggest that along with that, take supplementation also.
Right. Thank you, Janvi. Thank you for such an amazing session on gut health, and also to take up all the questions and the tips that you have given with the soft and jeera water or the haldi mixture water. We are definitely going to include that. And as you suggested, we are going to focus on the natural healing mechanism that our body has, and we must focus on our signs and symptoms and the root cause. So thank you so much, Janvi, for the amazing session. And
Thank you.
with this, we will just take a quick feedback about today's session. So the feedback poll is now will be visible on your screen. So I would quickly ask everyone to punch in your feedbacks.
I hope you all had a great time. So I'm hoping to see an excellent.
Yes, you will, because we had a really very great interactive session wherein you have covered all the small topics.
Correct.
Okay, so the poll is here now, and as you could see, 82% have really said it was an excellent session and also very good. So
I
thank
was
you.
influenced it by saying that.
So
Yes.
thank you once
So
again.
thank
Yes,
you so much. And for I think Tejasvi, if you could share my details. So if
yes,
anybody wants to, for the people who have not been able to answer the questions
yes,
with everything. So I
yes,
think if you can, I think we
yes,
had another slide. If we could share that.
yes, I will, yes.
So then I think anybody who feels that their questions were not answered, I'm
Yes.
happy to be
They
able
can
to.
reach out to you by mentioning their symptoms or their complaint, and then we will connect them with you for sure.
Absolutely. Yes.
And our session for tomorrow is how to beat stress and be motivated, because it is highly essential as the situation is still going on, which is putting up a lot of stress. And yes, to fight that situation, we need to stay motivated. So do join us tomorrow from 5 to 6 to listen to what our expert Shanti Pise will be helping you to manage your stress and to stay motivated. So with this, I say thank you on behalf of Just for Hearts, your trusted wellness partner, and wish you all to see you tomorrow from 5 to 6. Thank you so much. Good day.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for being an amazing audience, and thank you for being a part of this today with us. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.